The most recommended mulch in American horticulture research costs nothing. The two best-selling mulches at Home Depot and Lowe's came dead last in every biological metric university scientists have measured. And the warning you have heard for 40 years that fresh wood chips steal nitrogen from your soil is a misunderstanding the leading researcher in the field has spent 2 decades correcting. Welcome to the strangest aisle at the garden center. Today, we look inside the bag, read the contamination data nobody markets, and find out why the best mulch in America shows up on your neighbor's driveway for free. Let's start with what mulch is supposed to do. A good mulch does 4 things. It holds moisture, it buffers soil temperature, it suppresses weeds, and if it is organic, it slowly feeds the soil underneath it. 4 jobs. Now look at the data on temperature. Bartlett Tree Research Laboratories ran a replicated study across California, Arizona, Texas, and New Jersey, with temperature sensors 3 inches below the soil surface from April through October. Bare soil and turf grass swung more than 21 degrees a day. Wood chip mulch cut that to 9. Forest leaf debris cut it to just 5. As a control, concrete in full sun swung 68 degrees in a day. Oklahoma State Extension found the same pattern. A mulched soil sat 30 degrees cooler than bare soil at the surface on summer afternoons. That is the real reason mulch matters. Roots and microbes do not survive temperature swings like bare soil delivers. Mulch is climate control for soil biology. And while we are on what stops the soil from working, here is one of the quietly damaging products in the garden center. A single sheet of landscape fabric reduces oxygen and carbon dioxide movement to the soil by about 100 times compared to 4 inches of arborist wood chips. Black plastic reduces it by 1,000. That is not a small difference. That is suffocation. Before we get to the countdown, we have to deal with the myth that redirected a generation of gardeners away from the best mulch in the country. You have heard it 100 times. Do not use fresh wood chips. They will rob nitrogen out of your soil. Your plants will turn yellow. Here is where that comes from. There is a real principle in soil science. When you take a high-carbon material like wood and mix it into soil, microbes have to grab nitrogen out of the soil to digest all that carbon. That principle is correct. It applies to wood tilled into your beds. It applies to sawdust mixed with potting soil. It does not apply to wood chips sitting on top of the ground. Linda Chalker-Scott is a horticulturist at Washington State University, and she has run laboratory and field trials on this exact question. Her finding has been repeated in peer-reviewed journals. When arborist chips are used as a surface top dressing, they have no measurable effect on the nitrogen levels of the soil where the roots actually live. The microbes do their nitrogen tug-of-war at the thin top zone where the mulch meets the soil. That zone is too shallow to affect the roots of an established plant. And here is the surprise. That tiny surface nitrogen deficiency is exactly what makes wood chip mulch so good at suppressing weed seeds. The seeds sit at the surface trying to germinate. They cannot find the nitrogen. They fail. The problem turns out to be a feature. The one place this rule does still apply is direct seeded annual beds, where you are trying to germinate carrot or lettuce seeds at the surface. For those, pull the chips back, sow your seeds, and put the chips back as the plants establish. Every other planting in your yard is fine, so a 40-year-old warning that the best mulch in the country will starve your garden has been wrong all along. It has nudged millions of American gardeners toward bagged products at the front of the aisle instead of the free truckload an arborist would happily drop in their driveway. Which brings us to what is actually in those bags. Let's start with dyed mulch. The bright red, the deep black, the rich brown. The dyes themselves are not the main concern. Red and brown are colored with iron oxide, the same rust pigment used in paint. Black is carbon black, basically elemental carbon. Both have been cleared by extension scientists as low risk. The wood is the problem. Dyed mulch is preferentially made from dry, recycled material because fresh, wet wood does not absorb dye well. That recycled stream pulls from pallets, mill scrap, and construction and demolition debris. That demolition debris can include older lumber treated with chromated copper arsenate, CCA, the wood preservative banned from residential manufacture at the end of 2003, banned from manufacture. Not banned from the existing decks and fences and playsets that are now being torn down and ground into mulch. Florida researchers tested this. Townsend at the University of Florida pulled 22 mulch samples from construction and demolition recycling facilities. 18 leached arsenic above Florida's groundwater cleanup target. The same group calculated that less than 0.1% CCA treated wood is enough to push a mulch over the residential cleanup guideline. A follow-up study found that most retail-colored mulch made from recycled construction and demolition wood contained 1 to 5% treated wood by fraction. One sample tested at 230 milligrams of arsenic per kilogram, more than 100 times the Florida safety limit. The Mulch and Soil Council launched a voluntary certification program in 2005 to screen bagged product for CCA contamination. That program has reduced the problem since then. It is also voluntary. It only tests bagged mulch. It only screens for CCA, and it cannot certify the bulk landscape yard product many homeowners actually buy. The EPA itself states that wood treated with chromated arsenicals should not be reused in mulch, but the EPA does not require removal of the existing treated wood that keeps feeding the waste stream. No federal lab tests what comes off retail shelves. That means the dyed mulch you grab on a Saturday morning may or may not contain ground-up CCA lumber. The bag will not tell you. The store will not tell you. Nobody is checking. If you found that uncomfortable, the rubber mulch section is worse. Rubber mulch is made from recycled tires. About 290 million scrap tires are generated every year in the United States. A single car tire is 1 to 2% zinc by mass. Peer-reviewed studies have identified aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead, and mercury in tire rubber, along with polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, phthalates, and the rubber accelerator MBT. And there is a newer concern that has reshaped this conversation. 6-PPD is a tire antiozonant. When it reacts with atmospheric ozone, it forms 6-PPD quinone, the chemical now identified as the killer of coho salmon in Pacific Northwest streams. A peer-reviewed study in 2025 confirmed long-term leaching of 6-PPD quinone from rubber mulch, even in cold region climates. Rufus Cheney, the leading USDA authority on zinc in agriculture for 20 years, has stated that ground tire rubber should never be used in any compost, in any potting medium, or dispersed on garden soils. That recommendation is based on the zinc alone. Now the rubber mulch industry will point to a federal study to push back. The EPA research on recycled tire crumb concluded that human exposure on engineered synthetic turf fields is likely limited. That conclusion is real and deserves to be acknowledged, but it studied athletic turf with engineered drainage, not loose fill mulch in a residential garden bed. It studied human exposure on playing surfaces, not soil contamination, not plant uptake, not aquatic toxicity downstream. And the European Union went the other direction. In 2023, the European Union banned granular tire infill on synthetic surfaces. Same material, opposite conclusion. Then there is the fire problem. Ohio State University and the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension both ran combustion testing on landscape mulches. Out of 13 mulches tested, ground rubber was the most easily ignited, produced flame heights averaging over 3 feet, and water could not extinguish it. Composted wood chips only smoldered. Studies of rubber surfaces in summer sun measured temperatures above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, well above the threshold for skin burns. You start to wonder how this product became a playground standard. Marketing claims on the bag include permanent, non-toxic, and safe for plants. All three are contradicted by peer-reviewed literature. Rubber breaks down under sunlight and microbial action, slowly and into microplastic and metals. Plants in rubber-amended soil have shown foliar zinc accumulation. The Asian cockroach prefers rubber mulch over wood chips for shelter. If you are getting value from this, hit subscribe. I dig into the actual research behind gardening claims every week, and there is a lot more where this came from. Now for the good news. Number 1 on the ranked list of the best mulches in American gardening science is something you can have delivered to your driveway for free this week. Arborist wood chips. The fresh-chipped, mixed-species material tree crews produce by the truckload and would rather drop off than haul to a transfer station. A free service called Chip Drop, and your local arborists will deliver directly. A typical Chip Drop load runs about 20 cubic yards. The equivalent volume in bagged Home Depot mulch is roughly 270 bags, about $1,080 worth of retail product, delivered for somewhere between $0 and a $25 tip. And it is not just cheaper, it is better. Sharon Brock and Watson published a 5-year peer-reviewed urban soil study across 120 trees. Arborist wood chip mulch reduced bulk density, increased soil moisture, increased organic matter, raised microbial respiration by 33%, and significantly increased tree growth. The same study included the trendy treatments, aerated compost tea, and bottled microbial inoculants, the kind of biology that costs $40 a bottle. Their finding: no measurable benefit over plain water. The free wood chips beat the bottled microbes in every metric measured. Apply the chips 4 inches deep. Reapply when the depth drops below 3 inches. Do not put landscape fabric underneath. You remember why now. Keep a 3-inch gap between the chips and the trunk of any tree. 3-inch layer, 3-foot ring, 3-inch gap. The 3-3-3 rule. Number 2 is shredded leaf mulch. The leaves your neighbors are bagging at the curb. Texas. A&M horticulturists estimate that the leaves a tree drops contain 50 to 80% of the nutrients the tree pulled from the soil that season. Free. Pre-composted by nature. And remember the Bartlett temperature data. Leaf debris was the single best soil temperature buffer in their entire study. You have to shred the leaves because whole leaves form impermeable wet mats that suffocate the soil. Number 3 is clean straw. Around $5 to $10 a bale at a farm supply store. It breaks down quickly, feeds the soil, suppresses weeds, and works beautifully for vegetable beds. With one giant caveat we are about to get to: not hay. Hay is full of weed seeds, so get straw. Numbers 4 and 5 are compost used as a thin top dressing capped by a coarser mulch on top, and pine straw across the south. And while we are here, let's bury one more myth. Pine needles do not acidify your soil in any meaningful way. North Carolina State University, the University of New Hampshire, the University of Georgia, and the University of Maryland have all published the same correction. Pine needles are slightly acidic, but they do not have anywhere near the buffering capacity to lower the pH of the soil underneath. The acid soil under most pine forests was acidic before the trees got there. But before you race off to schedule a chip drop, we have to talk about the hidden killer of vegetable gardens, pyralid herbicides. There is a family of synthetic auxin herbicides used on pastures, hayfields, and lawns: aminopyralid, clopyralid, and picloram. These compounds do not break down inside the digestive system of a cow or a horse. They pass through the animal in urine and manure, intact and still active. They survive composting, and they survive years of dry storage in baled hay. North Carolina State Extension reports that complete deactivation can take several years. The damage threshold on broadleaf vegetables is 1 part per billion. That is 1 drop in an Olympic swimming pool. Plants show twisted growing tips, cupped leaves, and fern-like new growth on tomatoes. This is not theoretical. In 2012, Green Mountain Compost in Vermont had to recall 6,500 cubic yards of finished compost after aminopyralid contamination damaged customer gardens. If you are bringing in straw, hay, manure, or unfamiliar compost, run a bioassay. Mix the suspect material with potting soil, 1 to 1, in a small pot. Plant 3 pea or bean seeds. Set up a control pot with potting mix only. Water both pots. Wait 2 to 3 weeks. If the control plants come up with normal leaves and the test plants come up cupped, twisted, or fern-like, you have a contaminated batch. 2 weeks of patience saves an entire vegetable garden. Now for the honest limitations. If you have heavy clay with drainage problems, thick mulch can worsen anaerobic conditions and cause crown rot. Penn State recommends thinner application on poorly drained soils. In slug-prone wet climates like the Pacific Northwest, Washington State University Clark County recommends reducing mulch depth to about 1 inch because thick mulch creates the humidity slugs love. And if you live anywhere that is fire-prone, CAL FIRE and the Colorado State Forest Service both require no combustible mulch within 5 feet of any structure. That 0 to 5 foot zone gets gravel, pavers, or hardscape. Wood chips start at the edge of that buffer, not against the wall of your house. So here is where we land. Free arborist wood chips outperform every commercial product on all 4 jobs of mulch. The 40-year warning that fresh wood chips starve your garden is a misapplication of a real principle, and it was corrected long ago by the leading researcher in the field. The dyed mulch you buy this weekend may or may not contain ground-up CCA treated demolition wood, and the certification meant to catch it is voluntary and only applies to bags. The rubber mulch sold as permanent and non-toxic can contain up to 2% zinc by mass, leaches the same chemical now killing salmon in the Pacific Northwest, was the most flammable mulch in side-by-side combustion testing, and reaches surface temperatures hot enough to burn skin. The garden center has been selling you bags of mulch your whole life. The best mulch in the country shows up on your neighbor's driveway for free. Go schedule a chip drop.